Honestly, I should probably put my coffee down before I drop it or spill it or do something that I don't mean to do with my coffee because, I don't know, let's just say that that's happened more than I care to admit. So I'm going to put the coffee over there on the desk. Hello and welcome back, y'all. Now, this is going to be a slightly different video than usual because we're going to be going into some topics that I've been getting a lot of questions about, and we're also going to be talking about things that have been coming up in both the comment section as well as stuff on the live streams. Also, before we get much further into things, I want to apologize right out of the gate about the lighting because, yeah, I know the sun glare behind me is really bad, but this is just where my office just so happens to be. So we're just going to have to deal with the lighting as is. I've tried to mess with a couple of different lights behind the camera. I've also messed with the color balance. I've messed with the brightness on the camera. And this is kind of the best that I can get at the moment. So yeah, I know the background is very washed out, but and honestly, there's blinds back here or back here, but y'all can't really see them because of the way my office faces, and unfortunately that's just how it had to end up. So let's go ahead and address a couple of the things that I've been seeing a lot of the questions that I've been getting, and one that I keep getting a lot, surprisingly enough, because I think, obviously there's a lot of people talking about the whole YouTubers mass quitting and stuff like that right now. But I've also had a lot of people just, doing the YouTube comments thing and being like, oh, you should quit. And I don't understand that. I really don't. I mean, if that's the only way that they let out their anger or overall frustration, then that is what it is. But I am personally not quitting. I mean, obviously, yeah, I may move my schedule around sometimes, while I'm doing other stuff throughout my life, but I don't have any intention on quitting in the sense of leaving the platform entirely. But one of the things I want to talk about is comments, and the way I engage with my own community through the comments and through the live streams, and just some of the really good interactions that I've had, because there are a lot of y'all out there that have been honestly genuinely amazing, both in the live streams as well as in the comments, and it's honestly been really incredible to see, especially in a lot of ways what has been a sea of comments that I have had to, oh my God, the moderation that I have had to do is absolutely nuts. It's ridiculous, the amount of moderation I have had to do. Seeing comments constantly, and I mean constantly about, or rather even having to moderate constant comments of people telling you that you have ruined their childhood, that they are crying because of your content, or just because you popped up in their feed. That's not necessarily the best thing for, honestly, I don't think it's the best thing for anyone's own well-being to have to read those all the time. And granted, I knew I was going to get some interaction like that. Obviously, I'm not certainly far from clueless as to how people interact on the internet. Because honestly, the thing about the internet is that people will always find something to pick at. When you've been on the internet as long as I have, which is honestly at this point, I've been on the internet for over 12 years. And when you've been on the internet for as long as I have, one of the most important things that you learn is that no matter what it is and no matter what you're doing, people will always try to swing at you for any combination of whatever. If they cannot find one thing or another to swing at, they'll just pick something else. And I've experienced that in a lot of different ways. I've experienced that in the sense of, let's say your views one period are lower than your views on another period. You'll have people in your comments essentially trying to call you out for your views being low, when honestly people don't realize that engagement and algorithms flow all over the place all the time. You might have a month where you do incredible. You might have 6 months, you might have a year where you do incredible. And then you also might have a month, 6 months, a year where the algorithm is like, honestly, we have no interest in you and we don't like you at all. And you're not going to show up in recommended. You're not going to show up over here. You're not going to show up over here. And that's enough of a battle to figure out as it is. And then on top of that, you get a ton of comments of people, just being like, hey, your views are low. Stupid. Now, granted, you could comment whatever you want. I mean, I'm not here to tell anyone what they can and can't comment. If I try to tell people what they should and shouldn't comment, they'll cry about free speech. I took comments, honestly, way too personally and way too much to heart for the longest time. And it caused me so much stress. It caused me so much, just honestly, like internal issues that I had to figure out and work out. But more than anything, when I took comments so seriously for such a long time, it honestly can make you feel trapped, and it can make you feel so trapped in the concept of whether that's the things that you can and can't make, or the types of videos that you are or are not allowed to make. And I can tell you from personal experience that that's honestly not a position that any creative person wants to be in, because you end up just finding yourself making the same, essentially you find yourself making almost the same content loop just over and over and over and over again. But it's such a weird spot, because if you try to break out of that content loop, you do not get rewarded by the platform in most cases. And as a matter of fact, you end up kind of getting into a position with the platform where the platform is like, oh, well, your normal user base isn't interested in this other subject or this other content. We're just not going to show it to anybody. And I'm also sure that since I brought up that subject, there will most likely be some people in the comments that will say things like, well, sounds like you just need to make better content and stop complaining about the algorithm. And here's the thing about that. It is more than possible to critique the platform you're on and to critique the algorithms of that platform without those necessarily just being complaints about that platform, especially when you've been on this platform for as long as I have. And while we're talking about all of these different topics, I also want to take a couple of minutes to talk about live streaming, because I took a little bit of a break from live streams, and I wouldn't say I fully returned to live streaming, but I returned a little bit. And actually, across the course of this past week, or at least as I'm filming this video, live streams have actually been really fun. Live streams have been probably the most fun thing that I've been able to do on the channel lately, because ironically, live streams usually end up getting received a little better than long form standard video content does. I think it's probably because people feel a little bit more connected in terms of the interaction experience of a live stream, because we are actually having a conversation back and forth instead of just, I don't know, essentially the way the long form video content works. You're just leaving a message on basically a board in the comments below. And then, at a certain point, I may or may not be able to get to see it. Now, I think the other interesting thing about live streaming is that while I haven't been able to nail down a new streaming schedule just yet, people usually seem to be pretty excited to show up, at least on a regular basis, to the streams, regardless of when they happen. There are obviously factors that will go into play when you're trying to figure out what the best days and times to stream are. And of course, if y'all have any suggestions, feel free to leave those in the comments down below as to when you would personally like to watch my streams. But I don't know, I've really been enjoying live streaming. It's been a lot of fun, and I don't know if I would call know if I would call it a return to live streaming, because at a certain point, I remember obviously when I did, 3 streams a week, sometimes more. And while that was really fun, it definitely wore me out. It wore me out a lot, especially when I was doing it so much that I barely had time to make any other types of content for y'all. And so I have discovered that that's a way to burn yourself out pretty quickly. And some of you may look at that and go, 3 streams a week, that's nothing. And granted, I completely understand that if streaming was the only kind of content you were doing. Whereas with what I'm doing, I mean, you're talking about long form video content as well as short form video content, as well as doing the 3 streams a week. And let's not forget that there was a point in time where I was doing more than 3 streams a week. Not only that, but there was also a point at where I was doing that on a separate platform as well. And so that turns into a massive workload way faster than anyone thinks it does. Now, I'm not going to talk about this for much longer, but essentially just know with this little section of the video that I am trying to put together a workable return to a proper live streaming schedule. But as far as it goes right now, the streams will happen on a when they happen sort of basis. So now we're going to shift the conversation a little bit to the topic of you've ruined my childhood and I'm now crying because of your videos. And I've lost all respect for you and I could never respect you again. And if any of those things sound like symptoms that you have been experiencing, I think they make something for that. I don't remember what it's called, but I think they make something for it. But in all seriousness, I know it's like, it's really hard in a lot of ways to comment on a lot of that stuff, because I try not to spend too much time on it, but in a lot of ways there's so much. And while I'm not going to spend all too much time on I don't know, I'm not planning on spending a lot of time responding to or even thinking about those comments, but reading the dramatic exits of people announcing their, like, I have been here for X number of years, but this is where we shall part ways forever. And, from today forward, I will unsubscribe. And I'm like, I mean, that's fine. That's your decision. But the dramatic exits are, I don't understand the dramatic exits. I really don't. Or people dramatically announcing that they're, that they're unsubscribing or that they're leaving, or that they don't plan on watching anymore. I don't get or understand the motivation behind the whole dramatic exit thing. However, for those of you that do choose to subscribe, there will always be new content here. Again, like I said before, as far as live streams go, there isn't necessarily a dedicated schedule for that, at least not at the moment. But that doesn't mean that there can't be a dedicated schedule for them once again at some point later on down the road. So in terms of moving forward with the channel, there's always going to be new content here. I think the only thing with that new content, though, is it's always going to be here. And if you would like the option to watch it, the option to watch it will also always be there for you. And if you, for whatever reason, that if that content is not for you, or if you just are not interested, then the beauty of the internet is that you don't actually have to click on it. Wow, so this video went on so much longer than I anticipated. It's way later in the day now, and I'm not actually able to finish it on the same camera, so that's why you're seeing this from my phone. But either way, thank you all so much for watching this this update video, or rather this just roundup, I guess. I'm not entirely sure what to call this video. I mean, if you're watching it, I'm sure it has a title. So by the time it goes out, I'm sure I will have figured out what to call it. But I just wanted to do a little bit of a check-in with y'all, and it turned out to be a much longer discussion than I originally anticipated. So that tends to happen sometimes. But if y'all enjoyed it, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. And I'm gonna stop chewing on my hair, I guess. But if y'all enjoyed it, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. And if you would like to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn those notifications on. And I'll see y'all next time.